So how much would it cost for a ball tickle then, Amber?
Everybody has a price. I have not been given a price as of yet to where that would be acceptable, but everybody has a price.
Well, as the official human resources director of the company, fortunately, we do not have one. Today, fellas, chums, friends, MC Tuck Tuck, AL, we're going to talk about this concept that I'm putting together for the book, and I've got some good examples of it, which I think will really help, is this idea of acting like a big shot before you're one and how much of a mistake that is, and how there's this feeling like we need to appeal to the largest total available market in like businessy terms. It's called TAM, T-A-M, total available market. And I think that that's a mistake for most of us. I actually think we should do the opposite. We should try to appeal to SAM, the smallest available market. And so I want to talk about that. And I've got some really good examples because even big companies can do this. And there are phenomenal examples. And I'm going to share one of a really, really big company that recognizes that it benefits most from having the infrastructure and efficiency benefits from being big. But actually, from a marketing standpoint, acting small is the best way to grow. And I'll give you that example in a bit. First, I want to talk about this Instagram story we got tagged in. Judge_fit tagged me he was listening to the pod, and he tagged me in this episode. First of all, I don't know what in the world you're doing, man, listening to a podcast from June 2020. But you're for some reason listening to episode 3 of like the old podcast. I don't know how you found that. But please don't listen to those episodes. They're embarrassing. Regardless, he tagged and said, "My 10-year-old listening along in the car," and I quote, "All I learned from these guys is don't poop in the shower." And I just want to say that this kid gets it. He picked up the right lesson from our podcast. And of all the lessons that we try to teach, I think he picked up the right one. It's totally acceptable to pee in the shower. Anybody who says that they don't pee in the shower, you're a liar, and I no longer trust you.
Nope, then don't trust me. That does not happen. That is disgusting.
But it is not acceptable to poop in the shower. So good job, 10-year-old kid, listener.
Wow.
Ren, how are you today?
I just want to talk about this shirt, John, because it's the lightest colored shirt that I've ever seen you wear in my life. I'm unnerved by it. I don't like it. And
I like white shirts.
I'm going to request to be fired soon again.
There's an issue,
based
man.
on the shirt alone.
So the shirt that I'm wearing is bright white right now, and it's new, and it's, of course, from our friends at Unbound Merino, who, as we all know, I love the company, I love the people. And they are our official sponsors. I'll give them a shout out right now, super early in the podcast. Unbound Merino, they make phenomenal clothing, super comfortable, wicks moisture, and doesn't stink. And I recommend them as much as I recommend anything. And so you get 10% off your first order, coupon code Goodman. There's a link in our bio. Cool, Unbound. Ad done. Nailed it.
Good job.
The problem, though, like I like white, and I think I look good in white. The issue is that when you have children, if you ever decide to have children, or if you're ever around young children, white is a bad choice. So I often wear it when I'm not around my children.
It's a fetching shirt. I love the collar on it. It's a quality collar.
Thank you. Thank you. Amber, how are you?
Oh, fine. Everything's fine.
Good. Thanks for the really, really great guys playing this game of improv. And
I mean, I'm editing the email that I'm working on where I reference Dick in a Box. I mean, you want? I don't.
Good. So we're recording this. Number one, we're recording this on a Friday, which we basically never do. And that's just because I was at an event the last couple of days. But we are beginning. Hopefully next week we'll send out the first one, a weekly email to all of the Quick Coach users, and it's just like a tip email. Like here's one way to use this one thing or achieve this one thing each week. just to help you better use the service, right? And so it's called the Wednesday Quickie. And one of the nice things about owning a company is that, and not like having to have investors or anything like that, is you can do whatever you kind of want and not worry about professionalism and just kind of have fun. And so, so the first email, has a dick in the box reference in a very professional email about very professional software, telling you how to use it. We make a dick joke. So
got to start strong,
It's appropriate.
It's also what she said. It's going to be hard to maintain this, though. I mean,
that's also what she said.
When you start this big to go for such a long time, it's just a stiff challenge.
This is just a series of "that's what she said" jokes, isn't it?
That's the show in a nutshell. That's basically what we do.
A nutshell. That's also what she said. Okay, so let's get into the meat and potatoes, the
stick and berries,
the stick and berries of the episode here.
The breadth and width.
Yeah. Oh, fun fact, fun note today, guys. I finished the first draft of the book.
I saw that. That's awesome,
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Man. Was it
so
52,000? Is that what you said? 56,000?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's like the first draft is like 56,000, which is, I don't know. I mean, it's a fine size for a book. It'll probably be a little bit longer. It'll probably be closer to 65,000 by the time it's done. Like there will be a lot of edits. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm not done the book, but I'm really happy with it. So that was a big thing. And now I'm going to take a nap for about a month.
Okay. You earned it.
Let's talk about this. So this idea of acting like a big shot before you are one is a mistake. If you don't desire internet fame, then I don't think there's any reason to play that game. If you were trying to get investment for a startup or from a venture capital firm, then you have to prove a large total available market for your product or service. Mm-hmm. That's one game to play. If you're getting investment from somebody else, for example, I don't think a lot of our listeners here are, but like, just so you know how that works, they're basically only going to invest in you if they think that you have an opportunity or a chance or a shot at getting really big. And in order for that to happen, you need a large total available market, because you need a market that you're going to grow into in the future and basically give a really good return on investor money. Most startups fail, but some do make it big. And particularly in like the angel investing world, it's the percentage hit rate is tiny. Like these guys basically want to invest in a whole bunch of companies, one of them become a unicorn and pay out enough that it's going to make back their returns in all of their investments. That's the game they're playing. So that's great if you're an investor, you're kind of hedging your bets. It's really shitty if you're the company that they're investing in, though, because you know that you're going into this like 9 out of 10 of you are going to fail. And so the other game, the more reliable path of becoming the obvious choice, is to do the exact opposite and find your smallest available market, which I call your SAM. And so I'm going to make an argument on finding your SAM. And that doesn't mean that you necessarily have to be a small company. It doesn't mean that you might necessarily outlive it or outgrow it at one point. You might. But there are huge advantages to acting small, even if you're big. And if you are small and you pretend like you're big, there's no advantages. You're basically just making it way harder on yourself. If you start big, you immediately compete. Building a reputation amongst a large and a disconnected group takes an extraordinary amount of time and money and energy. On the other hand, the smaller your SAM, the bigger your advantage, and the more distinct your vision. Right? So SAM can be achieved a few ways. We've spoken about them here before, if you're a return listener, in which case, thank you for coming back, my friend. You can target microscopically small. And there's an example of a trainer named Janet who does this. and she's the one, I think I've spoken about her before. I don't remember if I have or not, but she has a group. Her entire business runs on a single WhatsApp chat group with 50 older women who live in the neighborhood by me. My mom got invited to one of her classes, so she's, a 40-some-year-old woman, personal trainer, and she went to play bridge. And in the most unsurprising turn of events ever, she was the youngest person there. And at this bridge game, the table talk turned to how she was fit and what does she do. And she said she was a personal trainer, and this thing grew out of it, right? And so, these women invite other women, and they use this WhatsApp group both to plan bridge games and also their workouts. And these women that live in like this small area of Toronto make up all of Janet's personal training. It's her entire business is this thing. So you could target microscopically small like that. You're never going to hear about Janet. Like, she doesn't have anything on the internet. She doesn't have social media or anything like that, right? Or you could be a big business. And I'm going to tell you this example, even if it doesn't apply to you, because I think that it might get some wheels turning in your head. I love this example. And the company is called Love Your Center, which is a super weird name that means nothing, right? You don't know what they do. They don't know anything else. But they know that it's better to act small even if you aren't small. So Love Your Center is a deep cleaning service business. Deep cleaning requires a lot of space, requires handling of chemicals, requires a pretty robust pickup and drop-off infrastructure, and a big advertising budget. So it's kind of an impossible business to run small. And I know this company well because the office that I used to rent for a company before I let go all of our senior staff was their warehouse was actually right beside us in this like industrial center. And it was a massive 10,000 square foot warehouse. And I researched them. So now I know that they have two huge warehouses, 10,000 square feet, and they clean everything, right? And so the company is called Love Your Center. You can check it out, loveyourcenter.ca. And they have 12 brands. So they don't operate anywhere as Love Your Center. They have 12 brands that all leverage the same infrastructure. They have Love Your Rug, Love Your Carpet, Love Your Tailor, Love Your Purse, Love Your Luggage, Love Your Gear for hockey equipment, Love Your Leather, love Your Shoes, Love Your Dress, Love Your Coat, Love Your Duct, and Love Your Drapery. Brilliant. They're a deep cleaning service. If you deep clean stuff, you can deep clean a lot of stuff. But how are you going to stand out in that case? So each of these 12 brands, and you can look up these websites, loveyourrug.ca, loveyourcarpet.ca, loveyourtailor.ca. All of them have their own website. Now, it's a templated website. Some of them, it looks like it's like an old design and it hasn't been updated. But you can tell they're all templated websites, and they're all built the exact same way. But it's unique domains, a unique website for each one. They each have their own, it's seemingly like pretty robust search engine optimization. They each have their own blog. And the blog is like very clearly targeted keyword blog posts for specific things of like what to do with your carpet and whatever. And they each have their own paid advertising. And the paid advertising is like online advertising. And then also, they do like bus station ads and stuff like that. In many of these cases, the individual service would be too small to operate as its own business. So for example, like Love Your Gear is hockey gear, but they also do like police uniforms and service uniforms and stuff like that. But it's mainly hockey gear is their business. And for anybody who doesn't know, used hockey gear smells kind of like sewage mixed with rat poison. It's really bad. I mean, I played hockey my whole life. I played hockey in university. I played hockey 5 or 6 years after university. It's bad, man. I don't want my kids to play hockey. And so there's a distinct need for cleaning hockey equipment. But the cost to operate a hockey equipment cleaning service, because if you think about what has to be done, it's actually, I looked up some videos on it to see what went into it. It's a chemical process for sure, but it's actually partly manual as well, because there's a lot of like nooks and crannies of the gear that you got to really get into. And so there's a distinct need for it, but the cost to operate the service, mixed with its seasonality, it just doesn't match up. So, but having a process for cleaning the gear in an already existing deep cleaning warehouse makes a lot of sense for logistics and operational efficiency. For marketing, though, it doesn't make much sense. If you got hockey gear to clean, you're not going to call up a carpet cleaning company, are you? You're going to respond to a hockey gear cleaning thing. You're going to maybe search that. And so from their company, they have like individual reps for each of these things that go in and create inroads and like make relationships with the hockey leagues and stuff like that. Each of these individual brands has its own phone number, even has its own phone number and email. I don't know this for sure. I'm willing to bet that they all go to the same switchboard, and it's all the same customer service rep who answers it. If it comes in on number 4, then you answer it and you say, "Hi, love your tailor. How can I help you?" If it comes in on number 7, you say, "Hey, love your dress. How can I help you?" It's the same person probably picking it up, right? And once they make the order, I see the vans driving around. You see, if you live in Toronto, you see them driving around the city sometimes. It doesn't matter what they're picking up. The same van might pick up on one trip a coat from one person, a dress from one person, hockey gear from another, and it all goes in the same van. Right? That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the van says "love your dress" if they're picking up hockey gear from you. Like, that doesn't make a difference. So you think about this. A generalized cleaning service that says we can clean and sanitize anything you have isn't as compelling as "love your gear." A generalized surgeon isn't as compelling as a hernia specialist if you got a hernia that's busted. To a customer, the more specific, the better. Love Your Center recognized that it has an advantage on the operational side by offering 12 services under one umbrella. They can send the same van to pick up a poster, rug, a dress, hockey gear. The marketing advantage, on the other hand, is to individualize each service so it's specific and specialized. So when people come to me and they say, "Hey, I've got these 2 audiences and they're not the same audience, and how do I market to both of them at the same time? The messages are different." My answer to them is usually like, your business ain't big enough for 2 audiences. So like, maybe focus, like identify which one is either the bigger opportunity or you like more, or the combination of both of them ideally. But if you really want to target both of them, what you actually have to do is create 2 individual brands that target both of them specifically. The way that you deliver the service, the person delivering the service, how you productize it, whatever it is, that might be the same end point. But the entry point needs to be different from a marketing standpoint to optimize it. The money that Love Your Center earns is the same. It doesn't matter whether they market as a one-size-fits-all deep cleaning service or whether a company calls to a specific brand, doesn't it? And my guess is they could probably charge more by being specific. Like if they're like, "Yo, we're a deep cleaning company. Hey, can you do my hockey gear?" Sure. Versus like, "We're a company that specializes in cleaning hockey gear." You'll probably pay more and be willing to pay more for the second one. So all of this to say, there's this distinct advantage to being small, and the smaller you are, the less competition you have. And as Love Your Center has shown, leveraging the infrastructure and operational efficiency of a big business while marketing like a small one is a really potent combination. Now, I share this example fully appreciating that it probably doesn't apply. Like, I don't know how many people listening to this podcast have a deep cleaning service or have a service that's really big and requires a lot of operational efficiency to run, and whether that's like a big advantage in their business. Probably nobody, if not nobody, like a very small percentage. But you have to understand that business isn't about ego, it's about leverage. And so, and this is probably my passive aggressive Canadian sensitivities speaking, but I just don't have any interest in competition. Like, to get mine, I don't need to take yours. There's a quote that I've always loved by the artist Andy Warhol. And he once said, "You can be watching TV and see Coca-Cola, and you know that the president drinks Coke. Liz Taylor drinks Coke. And just think, you can drink Coke, too. A Coke is a Coke, and no amount of money can get you a better Coke than the one the bum on the corner is drinking. All the Cokes are the same, and all the Cokes are good. Liz Taylor knows it, the president knows it, the bum knows it, and you know it. Well, $200 is $200 is $200. All the dollars are the same too. The difference is that some dollars are harder to get than others. And acting like you're big, forcing you into a competition where you really have no advantage, is a much more difficult way to get that $200 than looking for the smallest available market, the SAM, and going there. And if you outgrow that, you outgrow that. Right? Tackle that when you get there. So I've got an example that I want to get into that's related to, it's an athletic strength conditioning coach for youth athletes. And I have a story to tell about him and about how we kind of explored this idea. But let's talk about this stuff first. What are your reactions to this, guys?
Yeah, I'm wondering if the expertise is as important, more important, or less important than the perception of the expertise, right? In this particular example, like, they can do all the things. However, there's a greater perception of expertise when it's split in the way that it is into individually marketed brands. Like, do you think it's most important? Because clients don't have in our business specifically, clients don't know a trainer from a trainer. Like, they really don't. They don't know one from the other. But how important is it from a marketing perspective for us to understand that they need to have a perception of expertise? Does that make sense? The question that I'm asking? I never thought about it until you gave this example. Like,
how important is it for the customer to perceive that we have expertise?
Yes, that's unusual, which it may not be. I mean, it could be.
It's usually not. It's usually
not. We kind of all know the same stuff. But in our quest to niche down and how we reflect it in the Online Trainer Academy more specifically, like, it seems like there's an importance of that perception of expertise in one explicit area, regardless of the actual expertise. And I think Amber was going to say something. I'm going to be quiet.
You're good. I think it's about being able to communicate. That's kind of what that comes down to, right? Is how can you talk to me in a way that I understand? There was a thing I read not long ago that made me laugh, where someone went in to do an interview and they were asked, how would you explain DNA to a 5-year-old? And the way that they did it is they talked about it in the terms of Legos, right? Yeah. And so like, as someone who doesn't know anything about DNA, I'm going to talk to the person that's like, that can talk to me at my level and make it relatable to something I'm interested in, which I love Legos. Legos are cool, right? Like, that would be my person, right? And we tell students this all the time, right? We all know the same stuff, but what lens are you looking at it through, and communicate it through that lens? Because how I talk about meal prepping with my demographic, hot mess working moms, is wildly different than a, wannabe MLB pitcher. Like, that's, the advice very well may be the same, but how we approach it is wildly different. And so I think that's kind of the big thing there.
There's a book. Have you guys ever read the internet comic? What is it? XKCD?
Oh, yes.
Internet comic. So the author, the author's name is Randall Munro. And he wrote a book called Thing Explainer. And what he attempts to do is he attempts to teach you about the most complicated stuff on the planet using only the 1,000 most common English words.
Love it.
It's brilliant. Oh my God, it's brilliant. You guys keep talking. I'll find an example or two.
So
Uh,
for our students or anybody listening, I think kind of an interesting way to go about doing this, like we always get feedback from clients, right? Like, so and I'll say this a lot too, like not all feedback is good feedback. Often we'll look at, okay, what's the biggest piece of feedback? Does it make sense? And then we might choose to apply that. But another way to approach that is, okay, what's the minority feedback? Does it make sense? And then start shifting the business towards that minority. And that would be another way to kind of niche down, is learning what those smaller pieces of feedback are and tailoring your business that way. So that's kind of another way to slowly move into a more specific niche.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the idea of being able to explain something simply is you don't understand something until you can explain it simply.
Yep, for sure.
So just a super simple example. There's the giant Saturn V rocket, so Saturn V rocket, which he tries to explain, and he has to use the 1,000 most common English words, so he calls it the Upgoer 5. And anyway, it's just it's funny. It's not. I mean, it just shows how hard it is to do stuff, to say complicated stuff in simple words. But as a kind of like social experiment, yeah, super useful.
So there's actually a game around this concept called Ransom Notes. I have not played it yet, but I bought it because I'm really excited to play it. And so the idea is you get a card and you have to figure out how to say the same thing on the card, but with these like little cut out words that are available. And so you have to figure out a way to communicate that same concept and get someone to guess it.
Love it.
And so if you wanted to work on that skill set, like that would be a really fun way to do it.
Yeah, that's great. How did this topic come up?
We were talking about
the perception thing. Oh, so let me continue on that. So your original question, I think that brought up this whole conversation was, we'll say it again. It was about the perception of customers and how much it matters.
Is it more important that there's actual expertise, or more important that there's perceived expertise on the part of the potential consumer?
Right. So here's what I think about that. I've written about that. I mean, not that exact question, but I wrote about that a fair bit in the book, because I talk about like consumer psychology. I think it's really, really important. And I'll go through just a little bit of it here, and it kind of starts with the fact that it's not that we don't want to make good decisions, it's that there's too much to know. And I think we all need to appreciate that anybody that buys from us can't be accepted to gauge quality in the field that they're unfamiliar with. By definition, in almost every case, they're unfamiliar with our fields. That's why they're hiring us. We cannot possibly expect them to gauge quality appropriately based off of the objective measures that we believe are important. That's just unreasonable. And so it comes back to this idea that was described by Herbert Simon, who's a Nobel Prize winner. And we like to think that we make rational, well-educated decisions, but we don't. We cheat. The concept is called psychological realism. Figuring out how to solve a problem can actually be as hard as the problem itself most of the time. And there was a wonderful book by somebody named Barry Schwartz. He's an American psychologist. It's called The Paradox of Choice: Why More is Less. And one of the things that he said in it is, learning to choose is hard. Learning to choose well is harder. And learning to choose well in a world of unlimited possibilities is harder still, perhaps too hard. And to this I added, why is it that we're given 2 options for president, but 27 for pasta sauce? We live in a world where there's too many choices for things that don't matter. And it's overwhelming. And so one of the things that Schwartz said, this is his words again, he said, we're surrounded by modern time-saving devices, but we never seem to have enough time. Think about that for a second. All of these devices that were designed to solve all of these problems, yeah, in some cases they did, but they created more problems, most notably information overload. They made it really easy for people to build stuff, to create stuff, which I think is wonderful. But that has brought up a whole host of problems, like how the hell do you choose? This is my words, this isn't Barry Schwartz's words. The problems of proliferation of needless choice. And I think the solution is to lean into your ignorance and not to be embarrassed by it. I think as a consumer, I think as somebody who sells a product or service, in our case, usually a service, right? I think it's to accept and appreciate and understand that your customers aren't stupid, but in large part they are ignorant towards what you do. But they can't admit that they're ignorant. They can't. That's not. They don't want to feel ignorant, right? They need to think, and this is where I'm going to answer your question, Ron. They need to think that they can justify what they're buying with at least one solid nugget of information. See, the person wants to buy. They wouldn't be talking to you if they didn't want to buy. Your job is to provide them with what they need or the permission to make that purchase now. And part of this, and I think this is the biggest kick to the ego nuts, is that your first step is to admit that there's very likely very little tangible difference between what you sell and what somebody else sells. There might be differences in quality, but most everything is going to be good enough for most of the people who buy. Mm-hmm. Now, you're not going to tell them this, but I do think that you have to respect it. To them, even if it's not true, okay, it seems that way. In a lot of cases, the reason that somebody hasn't bought yet is because making a decision as to one thing versus another thing is just too goddamn difficult. So your first job, if you're going to do this really well, your first job is to learn about them, is to talk to them like a human would, i.e. not practice human avoidance marketing. Mm-hmm. And then choose one nugget about what your product or service does and tell them why it's specifically attuned to them. They don't care about all of your certifications and designations. They don't care about all the people you've helped. But if you can send them a 2-minute clip from one testimonial video about one person who's like them and has a similar problem or life situation as them, and you say, hey, Susie, I'm going to send you Pam's video. Okay. Now you can watch the whole thing, but I think particularly what you would be interested in, what you'd really benefit from, is minutes 2:15 to minute 4, where Pam really talks about how she was able to fit this fitness thing into her life as a shift nurse with 2 young kids. And you'll see that the key to her was fitting it in around existing habits and not trying to do too much, recognizing that for this season of her life, the definition of enough and what she needs to do in her fitness is perhaps smaller than she might otherwise want. And there's going to be another season of life. And in that point, maybe she'll ramp up. Would you do me a favor? Would you listen to that 2 minutes if I send it to you? Right? Nobody gives a shit about your NASM certification once that happens, does it? Doesn't make any difference. And so, Len, to answer your question, to me, this comes down to the perception of specialization, yes. And if we want to pump some steroids into this idea's ass, then I think the way to do that is to make it as specific to the human that we're speaking with as possible. We have that advantage as coaches. A lot of businesses don't have that advantage, right? Mm-hmm. Love Your Center doesn't have that advantage. Now, they recognize that they could clean all these things, and they said, okay, what are our top markets? cool, let's build a brand about these things. And they have to build this massive SEO plan and paid advertising plan and marketing plan and all this kind of stuff. We don't really have to do that. I mean, they're a big company. We don't really have to do that. But what we can do is we can know that these are the types of clients that we're probably going to see. And we can make sure, it's almost like, I mean, you could even do this on a spreadsheet. But even in your head, you're like, okay, if I have a woman who's concerned with a busy job and a few kids, how she's going to fit it in, cool. I'm going to send her this video from Pam. If I have somebody who's tried a whole bunch of mass media marketed diets before and they were short term and they kept rebounding, okay, I'm going to talk to them about this study and this specialization that I did on long-term health. If I have whatever, right? Like you kind of arrange all of the specs or specifications or certifications or case studies or whatever you have, and you arrange them around the problems that your people are going to encounter when they come to you, so that you can really easily just get straight to that thing once they come about. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's your specialization is in their individual experience. Giving them the understanding that you understand them is the area of specialization for most potential clients, and that sort of trumps everything.
I think if we're talking about clients, we're talking about a coaching service, then yes, yeah. If you're thinking about using the same kind of concept to create content and things like that, well then, yeah, I mean, you're going to center it around the problems. The issue is one of the biggest things that I see around people who are creating content. Like, my content doesn't convert. It's like, yeah, because your content's all about solutions and not problems.
Mm-hmm.
You're not meeting people where they are. You're somebody who might hire you at some point isn't wanting your tips for doing a better squat.
Right.
Like that's not their problem. That might be a solution to their problem, but they ain't there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Save that for when you're working with your clients.
What I tell our students is, what are they Googling how to do? Like, that's
right.
Like a great place to start, is where are they Googling? Man. And then you have things like alsoasked.com. So if you know that they're asking, like, my demographic, am I going to get fat if I eat after 7? Like, I want to pull my hair out, but like then go into Also Asked, put that question in and see what other related questions kind of come up based on that.
Is that a website?
It is, yes. Also Asked.
Also?
And Also
How do you
Asked,
spell it?
double check. ALSO. Ask, yeah. Also
asked.com. Oh, that's cool. Find the questions people ask.
It's a great question, though, Amber. What are they Googling? I've got
Pretty
this
sure
person in front of me.
Double check now.
What does she probably search for to solve this? What is she Googling? That's a great question. Cool.
So let me give you an example. So I'm going to do a search right now. And so it says alsoasked.com. Find the questions people also ask. And you can actually say which country. So I guess that specific to your country. So what was your question, Amber?
If I eat, you can be more specific. As a mom, if I eat after 7 p.m., am I going to gain fat or get fat?
As a mom, if I eat after 7, will I get fat? Sure. Okay. Let's see what this brings up.
And it may take a minute.
In progress. This may take up to 1 minute. How does it do this? This is weird.
It just, how like when you type into Google, you'll get those kind of pre-generated things. It's taking a guess based off of most common.
Oh my God, this is gold, dude. Okay,
isn't it?
So
then you can click on the questions
spreadsheet.
And yes.
Yeah, so it brings up like a spreadsheet, or not a spreadsheet. It brings up a mind map. And so on my end, the mind map has 4 initial prongs. Will I lose weight if I stop eating after 7? Is it bad to eat after 7 p.m.? Does eating food late at night cause weight gain? Does eating after 8 cause weight gain? And then all of them have a second rung. So for example, will I lose weight if I stop eating after 7 p.m.? Can I fast from 7 p.m. to 11 a.m.? Can I fast from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m.? what time should I stop eating to lose fat? Literally just run down that list and create a piece of content on every single one.
Gosh,
and same thing for answer the public is another great one.
Just give him
Same
one.
concept.
Just give him one. Don't give him. This is the difference between you and me. You're
I know.
and
It's
then
all
you
the
could do
nuance.
that, and then
I
that,
know.
and then that. I'm like, no. This is a great resource. No more resources. This is it. I don't want these people running around to different websites saying, which website should I use? Which is the best website? No. Also ask.com. Do a search, put in a question like what Amber said. Brilliant. What time of day is metabolism highest? What time should you stop eating to lose belly fat? And the answer to all of these is like, well, that's a dumb question. But, these are good. These are questions that people are asking. Let me see. Can I fast from 7 p.m. to 11 a.m.? If I expand that, does it then search that question?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see. Yeah, I clicked on it and it's like searching again. And you only get like a couple of free searches every day, it looks like. Wow, that's powerful.
Heck, that's gold, man. If you don't know what you're doing content-wise, which I get a lot as a mentor in the Online Trainer Academy, I just don't know what kind of content to do. And that's usually derivative of not being scaled in. That's you not being a SAM, right? You're not taking that SAM market. You're trying to do that TAM market, but as earlier reference. But if you know who's asking questions, and you can type in a question, you can get more questions that are prompts for content. That's awesome.
And I prompts for content. And then another aspect of this, just as I'm thinking about it, because I didn't even know this existed, Amber, which was like a killer recommendation. But the how you feel about these and how many ideas come up as you begin to answer them might give you some sort of an indication of where your own energies and education and background lie.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be powerful for that too. Like, are you whipping out the answers and you've got idea after idea after idea after idea, or are you like struggling to kind of hit these things? That's kind of some indication. Do we want to talk about this? I mean, it's a relatively quick story. Do we want to talk about the strength conditioning coach? It's related tangentially, not directly, but because we kind of went off in a different direction than I expected, which is totally cool. But you want to hit it?
Yeah, I think we should. Yeah, we should.
I got time.
So somebody I used to work with, his name's Alex Nose, fantastic strength conditioning coach out here in Toronto, and went off on his own and came up. This is a number of years ago. This is a lot of years ago, so I'm sure he'd be happy for me to tell the story. I don't know whether he did it or he didn't do it. So, in full transparency, consider this a thought experiment, right? Based off of what he told me, this is what I came up with. I don't know if he did it or didn't do it. So he's a strength conditioning coach in Canada, mainly hockey, although he worked with football guys as well. And he left the gym that we were working out that was General Pop. He started his own youth S&C facility. Okay. And so he came over, we had a beer, and he asked me, like, how do I get more clients? Like how do I set myself apart? Like, why would anybody choose me? Like all of those kinds of issues. I don't remember the exact words that he used, but it was those kinds of issues. I don't want to put words into his mouth. And I said, okay, well, tell me about what you do. Because I was influenced by, have you guys ever seen the first ever episode of Mad Men?
No, I have not.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
There's too much good programming, John. I can't make the rounds.
So in near the end of the episode, they're trying to like sell cigarettes. Okay, so funny example to use for like health, whatever, but they're trying to sell cigarettes and they can't figure out a way to sell it because the government or whoever has basically said that they can't make health claims anymore based off of them.
Right.
So they have to sell cigarettes a new way, and all of the cigarette companies that they represent, the Mad Men advertisers represent Lucky Strike, but all of the cigarette companies are in the same boat. They're all trying to figure out how to like get people to buy their cigarettes. And so the main character says, okay, walk me through your process. The guy goes, oh, we've got these tobacco fields, and then we harvest the tobacco, and then we cut it, we clean it, we air it out, we toast it, and he goes, stop. And he just writes on the board. He goes, it's toasted. They're like, yeah, but everybody toasts their cigarettes. No. Everybody else's cigarettes are poison. Lucky Strike cigarettes are toasted. Bad example, because I don't want to encourage anybody to sell cigarettes, but fantastic marketing example.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can find, just search "It's Toasted" on YouTube, and you can find the scene. It's a great TV scene. I kind of launched that series, which was a good show. I can't pretend like I watched all of it. It was a good show. So I went through the same process with Alex, and I said, walk me through your process. How do you train these kids? And I don't remember everything he said, but he was going through the process, and then he said something that was the same kind of idea. He says, we don't do any like steady state cardio with the kids because they're doing cardio when they're playing anyway, and the dry land training, the training that we're doing in the gym is enough for cardio. Like, what we need to do is we need to work on the skills, and we need to get them stronger, and they don't have a lot of time to train with school and everything like that, and the cardio just takes up a lot of time. I was like, stop. Like, that's it. Like, give that a name, right? Like with that, you now have, like, that's, I called it at the time the golden nugget. Like, that's your one thing that you can market the hell out of. Other strength and conditioning programs waste a ton of time getting these kids to do steady state cardio, and there's nothing wrong with that, but like, it's not optimal. We have the whatever process, give it a name. We have the whatever process based off of this idea. And he stopped me and he's like, but everybody knows that you don't do cardio. I'm like, nah, they don't.
Right.
The 25 people you follow on the internet,
right,
know that. The people you surround yourself with in the little circle that you're in, yeah, they know that. That's common knowledge. I'm like, have you ever seen anybody marketing this specific appeal? It's like, no, I don't think so. I was like, so what's yours? So what's yours? This is literally what like certifications are based off of, by the way. Mm-hmm. But that's a bit different example when, to answer your question before about this idea of perception. It's like, what makes you different? I think that in large part, consumers want to be given a permission to make a decision because they're there and they want to make a decision. They have a problem. They want that problem to go away. I have my kid. He plays hockey. He's good. I want to give him a chance. I want to get him in this hockey strength conditioning program, but I don't want to make a mistake. I want to make sure that he signs up for the right one. Well, they can't gauge quality ever. They have no idea. Secretly, I think that they know that, although nobody would admit that. What they need in order to make a decision is they need some way to feel like they can justify their decision to somebody else. And how you give that to them, how you provide that to them, is by giving them that one golden nugget. Oh, I chose this one. Yeah, no, they're great. You see, they don't do steady state cardio like a lot of the other ones. They really optimize the kids' time. Like, what does that mean? Is that unique? No. But nobody's marketed it. It's like the bullshit Dave Asprey bulletproof coffee example I've written so many. I mean, Dave, like the entire bulletproof company is predicated on this. Basically taking stuff that everybody knows that isn't a big deal in any way, shape, or form, making you super scared about it, bringing it to the forefront, and then charging you 5 times the price. And a good example is bulletproof coffee. They came out and made all these scary accusations. They didn't name any names, but they basically said, coffee processing produces this fungus called I don't know how to pronounce it, but mycotoxins, MYCO toxins. And look at all this research. This stuff is scary. It causes cancer, and it does. It's scary stuff. This fungus is really, really bad for you. What he neglected to mention is that all coffee that is imported into any developed country anywhere legally has had this stuff removed since the 1970s. It doesn't exist. Doesn't matter to him, though, because nobody had marketed it yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so he jumped on it and he said, we sell this coffee and we remove this bad stuff with our system of removing this bad stuff. It's like, everybody does that. Literally every cup of coffee you've ever drank, unless you're halfway up a mountain in Albania, I know from experience, has had this stuff removed. Jesus. You've never drank it. It's never been in any coffee you've ever had. But none of the other companies thought to market that as their thing. And then Bulletproof coffee is sold 5 times more than the other coffee bags because they have the system for removing the super scary stuff. And then all of these other companies are coming out with they're trying to catch up at this point, right? They're like, no, our coffee doesn't have that. Ours doesn't have that. Look at this. It's too late, man. Mm-hmm. You lost. Like, that's how this kind of works.
It makes me think of Ren's example about the firefighter, right? Like, you have the new firefighter that comes and puts out the grease fire, and compared to all other firefighters, they're like, well, duh, right? But if you were to privatize firefighting and they were to say, we put out your grease fires, well, they all do it, but they market it that way. You know, it's the same kind of idea.
It's the same idea. Yeah, I have I mean, that starts lesson 11 in the book.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
You
That's
know,
a good one.
It's just, once the fire's out, you tell the Stone College kid that the next time it happens, pour on baking soda, cover the fiery pan with a metal pot, turn off the heat, and let it suffocate from lack of oxygen and self-extinguish. Then you kiss a baby, post shirtless for a calendar, and do whatever else I imagine firefighters do. In a group of experienced firefighters, you're a newbie. Compared to them, you feel like an imposter, but you knew not to put water on a grease fire. Sure, you might get laughed at by other firefighters, but nobody who helped cared because you put out the fire. You solved their problem.
Pose for a shirtless for a calendar or whatever else firefighters do.
There's a
firefighter. What they do, John. Yeah, when there's no fire.
Rescue kittens.
Yeah, the only other thing they do is pose shirtless for calendars.
Oh, so there's this firefighter. You know, I'm studying this CrossFit thing, right? And there's a guy who's a firefighter who does the classes, and of course, you know, he's just like cool as shit, right? Like, he just like rides up on his motorcycle in a leather jacket. I'm like, oh, he's so cool. All these tattoos and stuff. I'm all chicken shit. Don't have any tattoos. Like, scared of it. Like, come on, man. And so I keep asking him questions. He's like a super nice guy. Like, you know, we work out together. And so I keep asking him questions. I'm like, so do you like, they're like calendars? Like what? Funny.
Are you buying? What's going on, John?
I don't know. It's like, how many babies have you kissed this week?
There you go. Nice.
Oh my gosh. That's exactly what they do, John.
Is that what they do? I mean, they get paid pretty good for doing that, don't they?
Yeah.
Not here.
It's a living. It's differentiated by county. By city, state, county. You know, all that stuff. It made location, all that stuff. My older brother was a firefighter. So that's why I use that example.
By taxes, right? Like, depends if you live in a richer area. Yep. Just like our education system.
Well, thank you for listening to the Obvious Choice podcast. Always a pleasure to be with you today, wherever you are, in the car, in the home, in your ears, wherever you are. Such a joy. I'm going to recommend another episode to you if you're listening to something else to listen to right now. Scroll back in wherever you're listening to this podcast to episode number 66. It is choosing what the fuck you should be doing. And the idea is there are precisely about 10,758,303 things that you could be doing in your business. How do you know which to do? This episode starts with a fair amount of theory of survivorship bias, of the stories we hear versus the stories that are important that we don't hear. I was really happy with how it came out. And then it ends with a really tactical process of testing and iteration. And the reason that this episode is top of mind to me today is I got an email from somebody who listens to the podcast and follows our stuff and that kind of thing. And he asked me, his name's Christopher, and he asked me basically like, what should he do? He said, I want to go into online coaching. I read your blog post. It's really good. I'm working on the different steps. There's two types of clients I feel like I'm best suited for. Men that used to be in shape have let themselves go over the years, and BJJ athletes. I'm a black belt. I don't know how to market myself. I don't know which audience to start with or how to tackle them. And my answer to him was, my honest answer, Chris, I have no idea. And neither do you. And that's because there isn't a good idea right now. Neither of us has any relevant data to figure it out. Mm-hmm. So your steps are to experiment and explore and gather the data you need to figure out what path is best. And then I linked in episode 66. Because at the end of that episode, there is a process that I think is a very important process for rapidly testing all of the things you feel like you should do, and a very simple 3-question matrix for figuring out which one to actually tackle. And I think a lot of people will benefit by following it. So that's episode 66. If you're looking for another episode, as always, if you are listening to this, you're enjoying it, please take a screenshot, tag myself at It's Coach Goodman, Len at Fitness Jones Training, and Amber at amberreynolds.me on Instagram. And we'd love to hear from you and say hi. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Sweet.